All right. I'm on here to go over a few things today. As you know, that I'm fighting for my First Amendment rights, and I'm being sued because of me using it in a case. Now, in this case, I'm not the only one being sued. And what they have in common is the person that's suing us. That's what we have in common. Each of us do have a channel that we utilize, and we all go our separate ways. No, we don't sit down at the same table and have meals or anything like that. We have no common ground as far as belonging to a group, and we're being accused of being in some kind of a group of conspiracy towards this Mr. Hales. And I'm going to call it that because that's what it says in the lawsuit, Mr. Hales. Matter of fact, it says Hales and Mr. Hales. Okay, now along with that, let's go over some of the people. Michelle Preston. She's being sued in multiple courts right now. I think there's 4 of them. But we're going to go into a little bit of the first one, and then we'll go into the second one. The second one's the one I'm in. And these two are federal cases, federal civil court cases. Same judge, Belothal. She's got her hands full. In the first case, she has a guy named Bruce Matskin. In the second case, Bruce Matskin is also a defendant. He's being sued along with us. And I'll get into that a little more later. Well, with Michelle, a fellow named John Cook is being sued. Now, in the first case, they're accusing him of something he didn't do. Why is he still there? Well, your guess is as good as mine. John he absolutely didn't do, supposedly, these signs that are out there. Now, that's in the first case. The second case, I'm telling you, I think John is just being drugged along because they feel like putting him in there to fill space, but that's my opinion. John, I'm sorry you have to be in this darn thing. They put the two of them together because they're partners. And I'll explain more about the partner part later, maybe in another time, maybe not today, because today's a full bucket trying to get it done quickly. Bruce Matskin, I'm going to go over him again. He is a lawyer that worked pro bono in this first case, trying to help this family. And the family I'm referring to, John, Michelle, and their little daughter named Harley. Now, Bruce, from the day he stepped onto the platform to defend them, has been under the gun. Everybody involved with Mr. Hales, not everybody, but a big part of them are after him. You have some fairly good-sized channels that follow Mr. Hales, and they're all taking shots at him. And the total number of people, by the way, that's in that group easily equals 1.5 million people. And when you add the subs up, you know what I'm talking about. And I am going to put the channels up later, and I'm also going to put the people that follow them. Now, I'm not going to give you the full channel, but I'll give you the first name of the person that is the creator, and then put the followers. I don't want to give them free space. And I don't need you to go out there and harass them either. They'd gladly give you mine so you can harass me, and they have done as much, okay? To give you an idea, some of the people that follow the channels use my dad's obituary so that they could track down my family and myself to start this harassment process. And this harassment process I'm talking about with Bruce was they followed his wife, found out where she lived, called his boss, her boss, and then they gave out to her hours that she goes to work, back and forth, getting there and going home. Also his address and picture of his house. They also made note that he had a minor child of 14 years old in the house, and in fact one of them that has made threats against Michelle's made threats against his daughter by saying he would take the hit and go ahead and ask her out. This 14-year-old girl. This man is either in his late 30s or early 40s, somewhere in there, and has since left the country and is in Australia right now. But this guy's channel at the time was DJ Radis. He's still communicating out there on a regular basis, and I'm going to get into his channel thoroughly on one of these, but not today. By the way, this guy put a satire song up there, and with the devil of angel coming to get that girl. The devil of angel is coming to get that girl. And the mother listened to that, and I'm going to tell you that caused a great deal of anguish because of the threats that had been perpetrated against her and John and that little girl. And we'll go into that later too, because I want to get your opinion about it. Marla Hughes. She's been a friend of Michelle's since before this ever started. And still there. I guess it doesn't pay to be somebody's friend because you're going to get drug into court. Marla, I'll tell you what, I wish I had a friend that as good as you have been to Michelle. Because you have stood by her through some pretty tough times. Most people's ship would have sunk a long time ago, and my hat's off to you. And I know you took a lot of hits over the time. Undeserved. Lisa Lee. They call her Lee now. But they call her a lot of other names too. They give a description of her over and over and over that are not flattering in any way. They have a hard time understanding. This woman, she is very tall. But they depict her as being extremely chunky. Now, she's big enough, and I'm not talking about fat, okay? But if she decided to double up her fist and hit you, you're going to go end for end. I hope she never gets mad at me. Lisa, you know that I'm doing this with a tongue-in-cheek. I hope. She happens to have a channel out there that has helped as much as, actually more than all the rest of them put together, if you really come down to it. She has helped in making sure a fence got put up, a privacy fence that was needed. Helped at a Christmas party for this poor little girl. And has made headways into getting their house finished. My goodness. I guess that's about as good a friend as you'll ever have. I would like to have her as my best friend, too. Boy, there's two people there. Marla and Lisa. Now, then there's Robbie. Kessie. He has a channel. He wrestles alligators. He runs a sanctuary, if you will. He has other reptiles there and animals. He's got lemurs and turtles. And this guy, he loves the job. It's a 24/7. He's being sued. David Tetchendorf, hereafter called Tetchendorf. Okay. I think, well, let's see. Let me look back here. I think. Yeah. I think that's Super Dave. There's also a David Helm. I hope I didn't mix him up. Robert J. Kesley. All that. David Helm hereafter. Helm. Okay. And Anyway, Super Dave is one of them, and a guy that has MLS or MSL channel. And then it goes on to say Raymond G. Bonebreak, Raymond, and Richard Luthman, hereafter known as Luthman. Collectively defendants. Okay. Anyway, that's all the names. Sorry if I got the wrong last names on there. Super Dave and MSL. Now, MSL is a lawyer. I think he's a practicing lawyer yet. And Bruce Maskin is a practicing lawyer. And both of them are being sued in this thing. I better pull back here a little bit. Okay, there we go. Is that better? Try to look at you now. I wanted you to get an idea how we got to this point. And all of us, in one way or the other, we were either helping Michelle and John out, or we expressed our opinions on our channels. Now, Bruce was defending him. So, in the first case, he was a lawyer. In the second case, he is a defendant. Jeremy Hales is the guy that is doing the suing. And his lawyer, Mr. Shockett, and we're going to go into his background because I'm going to compare him to Bruce. Now, I want you to know the backgrounds in these two people and what got them to the point where they're at now. I don't know how one of them is on the pasties bar, but, you know, that's another case in itself. Now, when I got on here, I didn't necessarily think that John and Michelle were the greatest citizens in the world. And like all people out there, I looked at them and I said, did they measure up? And I was looking at Mr. Hales, and I'm sorry I thought that he was going to be the man because he professes to be Christian. He was a former minister. He preaches in a church. Matter of fact, he used to provide sermons at the Baptist church up there in Ohio, and actually run Skyview Ranch, which is a Christian ranch for kids. So he has a background, and when you look at it, you're saying, boy, you couldn't ask for a better person. And that's to be up for dispute. But I'm going to give you the things so that you can make your own mind up as we go through here and you find out, why am I being sued? But how we all got here, and what are these people? What are they doing? What are their backgrounds? What put them into this point today? How'd that do it? We're all different backgrounds. We all have our different channels or occupations. I'm retired. I'm on I figured everybody has 4 terms of 20 years on this here earth. I went past those 4 terms. I'm going to be 81 here in a few weeks. So I'm on borrowed time, and I love it because when you get here, every single day is a gift, no matter what you throw at me, no matter how you treat me or call me or say to me. The Lord sees to have me here one more day. I'm so thankful for it because right beside me is my wife, and I love her to death till I die. All right, let's get past that. I got to plug my wife once in a while. She's such a great gal. Anybody that can stick with somebody like me all their life from the time they were 16 years old until now, and I'm only about a year and a half older than she is, so we met young, married young, had our kids young, and believe me, we've had a good life. Once our children were grown and we could just get out and do other things, it was like going back into being a child again. And then when retirement come, it was better than being a child again because you get to relive all the things that you ever wanted to do. Let's go past that part now. You got me. All right, I come along this thing, and of course it was Otter Creek was this drama going on. Had to do with this family. It was, I felt, was under attack after I looked it over. And I looked at both sides, and one side was extremely impressive. And I'm talking about Mr. Hales. But when I looked at the facts, they didn't meet up with the person that I thought he should have been. And I'd made a couple of remarks to that fact and got attacked. I mean, really attacked. I had talked about Mr. Preston and Mr. Cook, and I got told off, but not to the extent that I did from Jeremy's side. The people were vicious over there. I don't know why. Later on, I figured it out, because if you're a leader and you collect people of the same feather, and as these people start unfolding and you can see what they're doing, it's kind of a reflection on whoever the leader is. And as you look in the channel, you get to see these differences between channels and how they talk and what they do. Well, as it is, along come other channels that I happened to notice, and they were bringing in facts, documentation, and it showed what this guy was. Now, I went back and looked, and I seen these rumors, and it didn't add up to the person that I had envisioned. So when I got done with that, I started looking at Michelle and John. And all of a sudden, they weren't this bad couple that I thought they were. They had flaws like all the rest of us do. But if we're going to be judged on our flaws, what chance of any of us? It's what we do every day and the next day and the next day. John, he hasn't had a drink in over a year. Congratulations, John. I really commend you. And people that do it because they want to do it, not because somebody else wanted them, man, that takes a lot of grit. John has grit. He is a real man. If there's a big difference between him and Jeremy, I would say that, in my opinion, Jeremy would like to be, but he acts more like a child, in my opinion. John is the real man. He has been through a lot in his lifetime, and he is still somebody that you can look up to, not just because he's over 6'4" or something like that, but because John is John. He's been there and back, and he's still there. And he has humor. And he might look like it's dry at first, but you're going to laugh after you're around a while, because he's going to get you. In a good way, okay? And now that he don't drink, he's probably 10 times the guy. You just can't help but like John. And congratulations, anyway. Michelle has been through fire back and forth, and she is full of fire. And she will defend that child tooth and nail. And I can't think of somebody that would defend her more than Michelle. That girl loves her, and she loves people, and she loves life. And she wouldn't have had a life if it wasn't for Michelle. She was destined to be aborted before she was born, but Michelle talked to the parents and asked them if she could. She wanted that child, and they agreed and signed paperwork. And she was born, and the certificate says Michelle on there. Yes, she's the mother and has been from the minute that child came out. The unfortunate part was that because of the previous things that the parents had been or did, this child has a problem, as do a lot of babies born of addicted parents. And she has a feeding tube. It's a metabolic problem. And so there's different times a substance has to be put in there so that she can tolerate different substances that she might eat. She has to watch her diet. Consequently, her mother has to watch her like a hawk. Make sure she don't get into something she couldn't or shouldn't. But this little girl is a happy-go-lucky person and has disproved everything that's been said about her. They said she couldn't talk at one time. She talks fine. She sings. She loves to. She recognizes everybody she ever meets. She's not scared of people. She's very tolerant. So she's done a good job as far as I'm concerned. So it's natural that people would want to start, once they know the real story, they want to start helping this woman out and this man. And as time goes by, when they find out, then you're attacked. And it's brutal, the attacks. People come into my channel every week and they say, "You're going to lose it all, Ray. How's it feel? Jeremy's going to have everything you own." Before I got sued, they spent a month or 2 or 3, whatever it was. "You're getting sued. Jeremy's going to sue you. You did something wrong." And I took a snapshot of that, Ray. I hope you're happy. And, he's going to take your truck too, Ray. And what's your wife think? She's not going to have anything. It's going to be your fault because of what you did. Your wife is not going to have anything. They want my wife to be destined and out on the street. They want to punish my family over me. That's how brutal this gets. That's how people think like that. They're going to punish my family. Now, what does my family think about that? Well, they probably aren't too happy. If they ever talk to me again, that'll be something. Well, my wife talks to me every day. Thank goodness. My neighbors do talk to me every day. Oh, yeah, that was their thing. I get the threats over. They were going to call my family up, these people. And they were going to call all the neighbors up and talk to them. One of them said they were going to call my employer. Good luck with that. The only person, my boss, my big boss, is the Lord himself. And if you've got the balls to do something where you're going to go meet my boss, that'd be pretty good. You won't be on the earth, that's for sure. You won't be bothering me. The Lord is well aware of my existence. After all, he's the one that made me in the first place. And I love him for it. And I thank him every day. So people think of the dumbest things, Anyway, let's get back. First Amendment. Now, I'm not allowed to repeat what he says. Now, one day, when he had been talking about the people of Water Creek, and also talking about people he'd worked with, the citizens of that little town there, and the people that lived on the corners in that town, and the council, and the mayor. And I said, okay, he said it, I'm going to say it. And I did. He struck my channel. No warning whatsoever. Took it. I guess I pissed him off. I did it as a satire, but I meant it. As far as I asked the questions and he answered them. Actually, what he did, it was him talking. And if it wasn't for, if I'd have just used the words myself, he couldn't have got my channel, my video. But I actually let him do the speaking, and I did a narrative of it. And he did not want people to see that, I can tell you right now, or hear it. Because a lot of people don't really listen to him when he's talking on Sunday. They get bored because it's over an hour sometimes. Although he thinks he's the king of the night shows, but that's not necessarily true. I don't believe. That's my opinion. I have to say that's my opinion because even though I might put it in the title or I might say at the end or before, they take words and they put them in there and they say that this person said that. And they make a collage out of different paragraphs, pieces of it, put it together and say this is what they say, this is what they do. I'm being sued because he said when I talked about him, I slobbered. My eyes went all over the place. Something with my eyes bothered him. Now, normally my eyes are pretty friendly. I can't help it. The lines I've got, that's from a smiling eye, not from a hateful eye. Oh, my goodness. I guess I'd be better off if I frowned all the time and then just looked as straight as I could like a ghost. I can't believe that that's in the lawsuit. It is. Huh? How can you put that in a lawsuit? That's a reason to sue somebody. It's a description that he's putting in there that is made probably to convince the jury. And maybe he thinks by ad-libbing stuff in there, the judge will get a hold of it and think, oh, this guy's nuttier than a fruitcake. Well, if I was nuttier than a fruitcake, how could you sue me? Because you can't go after people that can't defend themselves. I don't know. I guess you have to tell me. Well, now, the longer this has went, the more I've been convinced that I made the right choice in trying to help somebody rather than tear them apart. And quite a while ago, close to a year ago, I had said as much. I said I was tired of the rhetoric, and one part was they started using this John and Michelle's daughter as a focal point, as save the daughter, save the daughter. And people become extra vicious. And the calls went into CPS, and these calls were found to be unfounded over 27 times. I don't know how many times, I lost track at 27, but when you get that many in a year, wow, that's a lot. Now, I'm not going to go, I'm only going to go for a couple more minutes because this particular subject is a long one, and I don't want to bore you to death. But I can tell you this. What would bother me about as much as anything, young children, you teach them that be careful, of people that want to accost you in some way. Well, this little girl, because her parents had been turned in for beating her, for doing physical harm to her, through the CPS, the CPS called the Sheriff's Department up. The Sheriff's Department come out with it's not actually CPS, although it is the Protective Services, it's Family Protection Service or something to that extent, along with the person from the Protective Service. And that was so they could gain entry regardless. Anytime something physical is turned in, they have to get authorities with them. And they were, Miss Preston said, okay, yeah, no problem. And they had to take pictures of this little girl. They had to strip her and show every part of her body that she didn't have bruises. This is a little girl that had been trained to be careful of adults or anybody that might want to touch her in an inappropriate way. And here she is in front of adults, or at least one adult with a camera, taking pictures. It's got to be traumatic. Well, later on, down the road, they had turned her in, said that she was forcing drugs into her. And I'm going to get into that a little more by a person that claimed to be her friend that probably may be a part of the instigation of this, but we'll get into that later. This particular instance, they came out again, and this little girl had to pee into a cup. So this stuff has got to get on a child. They wonder if they were taught one thing, but now they're finding out something else happens with adults. What are they going to think of people outside of that yard that she's in? How is she going to feel about her own safety? Because her parents have said, don't let people touch you inappropriately, but here's some instances where an adult can come into your house and be inappropriate with you because of something somebody else said. That would be traumatic as far as I'm concerned. I'm not bullshitting on this. This is real stuff. Now, I also seen on there's a video out there of somebody on the West Coast during a live transmission called the Protective Service in Florida on Michelle. Person's never seen him, never talked to him, took the word of people from this channel, not this channel, but the other channel, about what was going on over there because of third party saying this is what's going on. And somebody thousands of miles away is making a call in there. And any call that comes into the Protective Service, they have to investigate. They go out and look at it. This is what this family is going through. Now, the narrative has been built up to the point where these people are considered villains, Michelle and John. And therefore, people that have got that in their mind will not listen to anything else, no matter what you do. And I'm going to show you proof of that in one of my videos, of some comments that were made in a video that I put up that was very explicit about what it was about. The title, the content of that video, and the comment that was below it. You can tell that they came from one of these channels and came into mine just so they could rant and didn't know anything about the subject. That's what's happening to all of us that's in this lawsuit right here. But just because we want to help somebody needs help. I guess in today's day and age, it is better to step on somebody in the gutter to avoid the mud puddle and go on your business than it is to reach down and try to help that person to their feet. What would Jesus Christ think if he was here today and watched the interaction of people that look out at somebody, regardless of whether if the people actually, let's say that they were bad people or something, instead of trying to change their attitude and put them on a path of righteousness, that you kicked them and did everything you could to them to make them worse rather than better. What would Christ think about that? What would he feel about you? What kind of a lesson is that to the people standing around watching? If we got to the point now that if you slip and fall, the crowd around you is going to kick you to death, that's what it looks like to me. I hope it's not true. But an instance here in this small town of 100 people, and this thing is happening in that small town. And the perpetrator that's against them has called different people out. The neighbors that live around this guy. He's threatened to sue, I think it's Tina and Brian. He tried to change where the property lines are on his channel. He tore a memorial down. The memorial has been tore down 4 times. Now, one of them they've got on film, and they've got his vehicle there. It has been surveyed since that happened. A new memorial is going to go in there. And I'll get into that too later on. But I'm just telling you, those are simple little things that are happening out there. Because here's a poor couple that have very little except love in their heart for their child. Here's another person, to me, has hate and gold. Hate in his eyes, and gold is his venue for vengeance. Whatever he can make, whatever it takes to get there. These are all my opinions, folks. But if you walk the path that I did to get there, maybe you'll have a different opinion. I don't know. I do know that there's up to somewhere around 1.5 million people that have been blinded by the rhetoric and follow this blindly. And I proved it in my channel by having certain things in the title, and the people don't know what's in the video, have no idea. They didn't watch it, but they critique it without knowing anything about it because it's something somebody else said. They didn't look at it. They just took somebody's word for it. Well, that's all I've got for today. But my First Amendment is being stepped on because of my opinion. And I got to my opinion because I researched and because I followed channels that had proof of the things that I only suspected. And once the proof was put out there, then there was no going back. It's there. You can't deny it. And as we go along, I will make sure that you have a way to find the proof. That's all I've got for today, and I want to thank you for listening to me. I'll have more. This is the 4th one in my series of standing up for my First Amendment. You need to know why I'm standing up so hard right now for my First Amendment, what got me into this fix, if you will, why I'm being sued over it. And as we go along and you walk in my steps, hopefully you'll give me a pat on the back somewhere along the line rather than a kick in the butt. With that, I hope the good Lord blesses you. And as John says, ta-ta.